Thank you so much. Thank you so much for that warm welcome. We feel right at home in Tennessee. We really do. That was my walkout music that they do at big events. And I just want you to know that Kix Brooks is from my hometown of Shreveport, Louisiana. So it's a great song to play for lots of different reasons. We are so happy to be in Music City, so happy to be in the volunteer state. We love this state. We count upon this state for all of our national politics, as you know. And it's a great blessing to be here. I want to give my congratulations and thanks as well to Chairman Scott Golden and to Stuart, everybody who worked on this evening. What a great blessing to have, they're saying, the largest crowd. It's amazing. Really important. Thank you. The Tennessee Republican Party worked very hard. I'm honored by the cool intro video they did. It's all great. Everything is superb. Everything's better in Tennessee, it seems. I don't know. I appreciate the service of my friend Governor Lee. He's done an extraordinary job, and I love the way he gives honor where honor is due. That's a biblical admonition, as you know. Tennessee is blessed by strong leaders at every level who fight for your state every day in Washington. I'm blessed to work with so many of those extraordinary leaders in our delegation and your delegation that you send to Washington. They're not just colleagues, they're some of my greatest friends as well. And I want to call them out tonight. I think they're all here. They're just such an outstanding group. Tennessee's 1st Congressional District is represented by Congresswoman Diana Harshberger. And if she's here, stand up, Diana. The 2nd District is Congressman Tim Burchett. Where's Tim? As seen on TV, Tim, I say, yeah. The 3rd District is represented by Chuck Fleischman. Where's Brother Chuck? Chuck is my height, so you might not see him. He's stand up. He and the next Tennessee's 4th District, represented by Scott DeJarle. Where's Scott? Those two guys have been serving Tennessee a long time, and I think technically they're both the deans of the delegation, but you'll have to ask them which one it is. 5th District, represented by Andy Ogles. Where's Brother Andy? 6th District, Congressman John Rose. I want to thank John for inviting me here tonight. This is his district. Man, I'm so jealous. You get to represent this amazing district. He's 4 terms, been doing a great job there. 7th District, my classmate, David Kustoff, extraordinary congressman. We're going to add another seat when we fill the one that Mark Green has left, my dear friend Mark Green, Tennessee's 7th District. So we'll see how that one comes out here, okay? Of course, everybody knows you're so well represented by your senators, Marsha Blackburn, of course, and Bill Hagerty. Thanks to so... Thank you for indulging me. I didn't want to drag it on long. I could give you the resumes of all these extraordinary people, and they deserve it. But in the interest of time, I know that you understand you have an incredible lineup in Washington. I mean, pound for pound, this might be the most powerful delegation in Congress, and I mean that sincerely. You're truly blessed, and America is truly blessed by the extraordinary caliber of public servants that you've sent to Washington. And what they're doing every day is they're helping us. This is no small thing. They're helping us to defend and preserve the greatest nation in the history of the world. It's not even close. I love what they put in that video. It really is, because of that hard work and because of your hard work, the Tennessee Republican Party in the trenches every day doing this. It really is morning in America again. And we have awaited this since Reagan first came up with that phrase. And it's certainly true. 2025 has indeed kick-started the new golden age of America, and it's a very real thing. Listen, I have a very brief time to speak with you tonight. I want to do two things. I want to address very briefly two important subjects. I want to talk with you about the current things that are occupying our time, the challenge that's ahead of us and what we're going to do to win. But I also want to address the permanent things, because that's what our party stands for after all. And it's good for us to be reminded of that, particularly on the eve of our 250th anniversary as a nation. That's right. My friends, let's talk about the current things very quickly. God has truly blessed us with the opportunity that we have right now. Now, you know, before the election cycle last fall, everybody thought that this was not going to be possible. All the pundits, all the Democrats, the experts at MSDNC, what are they calling it now? MS, it's not that anymore, that network. They just changed the name. Whatever they call it, they all said this was not supposed to happen, okay? The night before the election, my friends, the headline said Republicans are going to lose the House. We didn't believe it. They said the U.S. Senate would come down to a coin toss in last fall's election. They insisted that we would lose our House majority and we would be forced to turn the House over to Nancy Pelosi's hand-picked successor, Hakeem Jeffries of New York, to be the Speaker of the House. I know. And look, you know what they did to President Trump. They threw everything they had at our president, and they tried to take him down, from indictments to actual assassination attempts. But we all saw what happened. In fact, everybody around the globe saw what happened. First, God spared President Trump's life. That's a fact. Not once, by the way, but twice. And he and I have talked about those harrowing events many times, and how they played out on the world stage for everybody to see, and how no one can deny the miracles, true miracles, that saved him, and the divine hand of providence which has allowed him to lead this, for the second time, the last great superpower on the earth at this pivotal moment in American and world history. It is no small thing. And I can tell you that President Trump's head and heart are in a very different place now than they were when we first started all this about 9 years ago. He thinks very contemplatively, very carefully about his own mortality, about his legacy, about the historic times that we're living in. And I want to tell you my firsthand account, because I talk to him multiple times every day. I spend a lot of time with the president. He is exactly where he needs to be, and where all of us would want for him to be, and where millions of people have prayed that he will be. That's a fact. So listen, everybody on the left said we were going to lose. They were convinced of it. They were already throwing the parties, and we defied it. We won the White House, the Senate, and the House. We have unified government, an extraordinary event in history. And we determined not to make light of it. On Election Day, last November, an overwhelming 75 million Americans put President Trump and Republicans in Congress back in charge. And we don't take it lightly. We received that mandate. We were happy to have it, and we hit the ground running. Vince Lombardi said, "Victory loves preparation," and we prepared carefully for the moment that we believed would happen, that we would have unified government, and we determined not to waste it. And so we hit the ground running. We passed the most consequential and productive legislation. We've had the most consequential and productive start to a presidential administration in the modern era. It's not even close. It's incredible what is happening. Just in the House alone, let me give you a quick snapshot. Since January, we've already passed more than 250 key pieces of legislation. We codified more than 50 of President Trump's executive actions. That's right. We started to hold these activist judges accountable. You know that? And the Biden bureaucrats as well. And you know what we did? The biggest issue in the last election and the promise that we made, we secured the nation's border. There's 0 crossings now. Basically, the common theme is that we're restoring common sense. And that makes sense to the American people. And since the nightmarish 4 years of the Biden and Harris administration left literally every area of public policy like a disaster zone, we went straight to work to fix it all in one big, beautiful bill. Okay, that's what we did, all right? The president named it that, all right? In fact, he wanted to put an exclamation point on the name of the legislation. I won that one. In spite of our challenges, working with y'all, we had one, y'all, I'm in the South, so I could, y'all, all right? We were working, y'all, with one of the smallest margins of all time. Our margin for 90 of the first 100 days was one vote. What could go wrong? What could go wrong? In spite of that, we had the most aggressive timetable imaginable with the most aggressive legislative agenda. And we fulfilled our promises by God's grace, and we delivered the largest tax cuts, as Marcia said, and the largest spending cuts in history, all at the same time. We did the largest investment in border security in a generation. We did the right things to ensure peace through strength. And you know what we did also? We are returning once again to American energy dominance, and that's going to be a big thing. And as has been mentioned tonight, we added in, just as cherry on top, no tax on tips, no tax on overtime. That's right, tax cuts for seniors. And we also eliminated fraud, waste, and abuse. And we eliminated taxpayer-funded handouts to illegal aliens. Enough of that, enough of that. We did all that in one big, beautiful piece of legislation. Let me tell you real quick, a couple of stats real quick, what this means for the people of Tennessee, because the calculations are done by state. The average wages in this state are going to rise between $3,400 and $6,100 over the next 4 years for individuals. Families here are going to see between $7,000 and $9,900 more in their actual take-home pay. 1.2 million seniors in Tennessee are going to get tax relief because of that legislation that we passed on their Social Security. 66% of Tennessee's workers could benefit from the no tax on tips provision. And I was at a bar today on the way in. I went in to talk about no tax on tips. That's why I was there. I was in a suit, but hey. But they're excited about that. You know what? Because that's real money for real people, and that's the promise we made in the election, that we would take care of them, and we have. We're fulfilling our promises. We also protected an estimated 139,000 jobs here over the next 4 years. We extended the 199A pass-through deduction, which helps 78,000 small businesses in Tennessee. And finally, our bill makes permanent 176 opportunity zones in this state, which have already created 24,000 jobs. That's big stuff. Now, we can never forget that every single Democrat in Congress, House and Senate, voted against every one of those big wins for the people. I know. And we've got to remind the voters of that when the left lies about our bills. Because how many of you know that's all they got left? They don't have a leader, no platform, no policies that are digestible by the American people. They just have to lie about what we're doing. Democrats voted against the prosperity and security of the American people, and they voted against working families' tax cuts. It's that simple, and they cannot escape it. In next year's midterms, the American people are going to hold them accountable. All that's already been accomplished, but my friends, we're just getting started. We have much more to do. And as we continue to deliver on our promises to the American people, I am convinced that in 2026, we will defy history once again, and we will grow the House majority. We got to have a bigger majority. We're going to do it. The stakes could not be higher, and everybody in this room knows that. We honestly don't have a choice. We have to win. If we lost next year, you know exactly what would happen. Nancy Pelosi and Hakeem Jeffries and AOC and Jasmine Crockett and the radical left, they will immediately move to impeach our president. You know they will. First week of that Congress in January 27. And they'll bring our America First agenda to a grinding halt. They will try to unwind everything that I just recounted for you. As you've seen, they're already trying to do that. As we are here tonight, Gavin Newsom is saying the quiet part out loud. Right now as we speak, he and the radical California Democrats are trying to shred their own state constitution to, quote, end the Trump presidency. That's the gambit. I got a little message for Gavin Newsom, all right? Tweeting about President Trump is as close as you are ever going to get to the presidency, brother. If his bumper sticker says, "Make America California," we win automatically, right? We win automatically. The left is becoming more radical than ever before, and it's not a laughing matter, it's really not, because this is not our father's Democratic Party. These people have gone far, far to the left. Look what's happening right now. In America's largest city, the global center of capitalism, right now, the Democrats have nominated a full-fledged Marxist to be the mayor of New York City. That's the future of the Democratic Party, but it cannot be the future of America. We simply cannot let them win, and we won't. We will not let them. That leads me to the other subject I wanted to address with you very briefly, and I'll bring this to a close, but this is important. We talked about the current things, but we also have to address the permanent things, because really that's what this is all about. This next election cycle and what we do in the days ahead are not just about ensuring that President Trump has 4 full years to save America. It's not just about us defying history to grow a president's majority in a midterm election. This is about preserving the very foundations and the principles that have made our nation what it is. Scripture asks a very important question, and it is not a rhetorical one for us. Psalm 11:3 says, "If the foundations be destroyed, what will the righteous do?" We have to address that. And as we approach the 250th anniversary of this grand experiment in self-governance, it's incumbent upon us to remember what those principles and foundations are and to pass them along to the next generation. In this position, as all my colleagues in Congress and many of the state legislators here, thank you all for your work as well, we often get lots of opportunities to go and speak to universities and college students, young people. And I don't really have time in the schedule right now to do it, but I try to do that as much as I can and I want to encourage all of us to do the same. You cannot take for granted that the generations behind us understand the source of their freedom, right? And I wanted to just give you very quickly a short summary, a little summary that I use to teach people about the importance of our foundations, about the importance of American exceptionalism and what it means. You can elaborate on it for a long, long time, or you can make it simple and digestible, and that's what I try to do. I just did this a few weeks ago. We had all of our summer interns on Capitol Hill in a big ballroom, hundreds of them, and I just did this exercise with them as I do on university campuses, and I'm gonna give it to you very quickly, and I'm gonna wind this up, okay? But speaking of those permanent things, often when I'm in a big setting, I'll be in an auditorium on a college campus. I was with the interns, and they brought in a big whiteboard, and I had it behind me, and I said, let me begin today by asking you, now these are Capitol Hill interns, okay, that I'm asking. I said, raise your hand if you agree that you live in the greatest nation in the history of the world. And well, I know you guys do, okay. But when you do this with university students, you would be saddened by the results. Because when I'm on a college campus, and even when I was with the interns, I didn't have all the hands. On your average university campus right now, you'll get a small percentage, and sheepishly, a few students will raise it, yeah, I live in the greatest nation. Okay, put your hands down. I'll say to the students, okay, for the rest of you, if you don't agree that you live in the greatest nation in the history of the world, would you at least acknowledge that you live in a great nation? A couple more hands will go up. And I say, put your hands down. Listen to me. Your freedom will be taken away from you if you do not understand the source of it. Let me tell you something, students. I'm a constitutional law attorney. I could put on my whole case here, but let me summarize it. You definitely live in the greatest nation in the history of the world. It's not even close, okay? Everybody in this ballroom tonight knows, by any objective measure, we're the most free, most successful, most powerful, most benevolent nation that has ever been on the face of the earth. And it's not by happenstance. There's a reason for that. So I say to the students, I get a marker and I go up to the whiteboard and I say, I'm going to show you very quickly, in 5 words, I'm going to depict for you why you live in the greatest nation in the history of the world. This is about the foundations. This is about the permanent things. So I go up to the whiteboard and I write very big at the top of the board, G-O-D, big letters. Then I come about halfway, okay, that's right. Sadly, that is not an applause line at the university campus. Okay, but I write G-O-D very big. I go halfway down the board and I write the word king, lowercase k. And then down from the king, I draw a bunch of arrows. At the bottom of the board, I write the people / the subjects. So I back up and I look at the whiteboard and I tell the students, I'm going through this with you because you can do the same thing. We all need to explain these things. So I look at the whiteboard and I tell the students, I say, what you're looking at right here is a sort of a graphic word picture of a philosophy known as the divine right of kings. Now, this was the prevailing philosophy of all of our predecessor nations, the great nations on the world. It's a European medieval notion, and the idea is that there is a sovereign God hovering above, but the king, the earthly king, is the sovereign. The king is the one that has all the power. The king is the one that can tell you what property you can hold, probably what you can do to earn a living, sometimes you can marry, how many children you can have. The king is everything. Well, the founders of our country come along in 1776, and they had a problem with that because the king was a tyrant. And I tell the students, the king was taking away the rights of the people. And our founders were students of history, and by the way, they were students of scripture. And they knew that that wasn't right. Yeah, that's right. G.K. Chesterton was the famous British statesman and philosopher, and he famously said one time, America is the only nation in the world that is founded upon a creed, and it is listed with almost theological lucidity or clarity in the Declaration of Independence. What is our creed? It's that second paragraph that we all had to memorize in school and nobody does anymore. They're probably doing it in Tennessee schools, and I want to thank you for that, but here's what it says. We hold these truths, Jefferson wrote, okay, on behalf of a small committee, included Franklin and Adams. We hold these truths to be self-evident. And I will stop with the college and university students. I say, but what is a self-evident truth? Something that's obvious. We hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal. Hold on. It doesn't say born equal. It says created equal, okay? By someone. We hold these truths to be self-evident that all men are created equal. They are endowed by their Creator with certain inalienable rights, that among those are the rights to life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. That is the radical revolutionary statement that started our country off 250 years ago, and that is the reason, that is the foundational principle that made us the great nation that we are. Why? I take the eraser and I go up to the whiteboard, and I erase king off the board. I erase all the arrows that went down to the king. I erase the word the subjects. Now all that's left on the board is God and the people. And so I draw all the arrows down from God to the people, and I say, now look, that was a revolutionary concept. Well, it was. See, here's the thing, students, I tell them. The founders acknowledge the truths about all this. They acknowledge that our rights do not derive from government. They come from God himself, all right? Lincoln famously articulated it many years later in the Gettysburg Address. And he said, we are dedicated to this proposition that we are one nation under God, and that a government of the people, by the people, for the people shall not perish from the earth. See, there's all sorts of implications to that philosophy that started us as a nation. Because the founders I mentioned were students of Scripture. Many of them were seminarians, and they understood that God is our creator, God is the one that gives us our rights, and we are created by God in his image. Now, what does that mean? Oh, that's full of implications, because if we're made in God's image, listen, students, I tell the college students, that means every single person has inestimable dignity and value. And your value is not related in any way to the color of your skin, what zip code you live in, your talents, how good looking you are. It's irrelevant. Your value is inherent because it's given to you by God. Now, here's the problem I tell the students. There's all sorts of principles that come out of this. The founders also understood from Scripture that man is fallen by nature. Man is bad by nature, and man must be controlled, and power corrupts. And as Lord Acton observed, absolute power corrupts absolutely. And so you have to have checks and balances and separation of powers, and you got to have all these different things to make sure that power is not concentrated too heavily in just a couple of hands, because that's dangerous, because men are men. And God is God, and our freedom comes from God, and our responsibility ultimately is to him. It transcends the civil authorities. It goes to our Creator himself. My friends, that's the birth certificate of your nation. And you cannot forget it. You cannot forget it. Now, here's the problem I tell the students. I take the eraser and I go back to the board. There's a problem going on right now. I've been doing this for the last few years, and I think we're beginning to turn the tide on this, but this is what I've been saying. Right now, something terrible is happening. Your freedom is in jeopardy because we have forgotten the foundations and the principles. And I take the eraser and I go up and I erase G-O-D. And I erase all the arrows that go down to the people. And now the only word left on the board, 2 words, the people. So I take the most ominous black thick marker that I can find, one of those big Trump markers, and I go and I circle the people. And I say, now, I back up and look at it and go, Now, if you think that's a happy circumstance, you are quite wrong, and you are not a student of history. Because what you're looking at right there is a visual depiction of Marxism. Communism and socialism are deviations of Marxism. And it begins with the premise, students, that there is no God. That is anti-American, and it is quite dangerous. Because every time somebody's tried to go down that road, it's led to the murder of tens of millions of innocent people just in the 20th century alone. And by the way, if there is no God, that whole thing about your inestimable dignity and value that's inherent, that's not true anymore. Who gives you your value? See, if there's no God, and that's what society's doing right now, they're telling us that there is no God. We're one nation under God. We can't forget it, because if it's not true, I'm just saying, students, I tell them, if it's not true, we're all in trouble. Because if it's just the people ourselves, heaven help us. Oh, never mind, there's no heaven. Help us, okay? Because remember that thing about power corrupting and all that? By the way, this is the basis of socialism. If you're not individually valuable and you're not created by God who loves you and has a plan for your life, then you're just another social animal. That's the root of socialism. And you know what happens to social animals? They have to be herded and controlled by the people who gather the power in their hands and become tyrants, and your freedom is taken away. Don't go down the road of socialism, kids, okay? That's what that is. You can unpack that a lot more, and I do when I have more time, but that's the essential premise. How do we get back to it? How do we preserve freedom? How do we secure those foundations? We return to the permanent things. We remind Americans of these great truths. We are the greatest nation in the history of the world for a reason. We are a nation under God. It's put right there in gold letters, right above the Speaker's rostrum in the House of Representatives, to remind all the would-be socialists who might one day be elected to Congress that there is a greater truth. And we got to remind the next generation. I'm way out of time. Let me close this by saying it is the honor of my life to serve as the 56th Speaker of the House and to help lead this battle with all of you. There is a role for every single one of us to play. None is more important or less important than the other. This is a government of, by, and for the people. And the people have to be engaged or it doesn't work. I'm so encouraged to see this big ballroom tonight with all these freedom lovers in Tennessee. I'm going to do one thing if you'll indulge me. Chase, do you have my phone? Bring my phone real quick. I just had an idea. The leader of this fight, of course, is our president, Donald J. Trump, the 45th and 47th president. Okay, so I just had the idea. I'm going to make him a video. I can't let this crowd go. I'm going to send him a video when I leave tonight, okay? So play along, all right? I'm going to turn around. We'll do a selfie, like I'm a millennial or something. I'm going to do a selfie here. And I'm going to tell him where we are, what we're doing, and then I'm going to say something like, are we going to win Tennessee? Let him know how you feel about it, okay? Hold on just a second. Well, let me turn it around. See, I am a millennial, right? There we go. Okay, here we go. Mr. President, I'm here in Tennessee, the great state of Tennessee. USA, USA. A lot of energy here tonight, Mr. President. This is the Tennessee Republican Party and 1,700 of your biggest supporters here. We are celebrating tonight Tennessee's golden age and America's golden age. We want you to know one thing. We have your back. We're going to win in 2026, and Tennessee's going to deliver, aren't we? Go get him. He'll love that. That's huge. Okay. I talked too long, but I'm having too much fun. I love Tennessee, and I love this group, and all of you, thank you so much for all you do. It matters. And I'm going to tell you what, I tell this to my interns and the lowest ranked members of the staff. I say, don't worry if no one knows what you're doing, because God knows what you're doing, and He honors that. He honors it. He's going to honor you. Thank you so much. God bless you. Thank you.